I was not born in a hospital. I was welcomed onto this Mother Earth by songs and prayers of my elders and my people. When my umbilical cord came off, my mother took that and she buried it in the ground. And by doing that, you are always anchored to that place. She nasha, she nasha, she nasha, uke hojon la heya hate naya, tahala tahala kunasha, tahala tahala kunasha. So Yash, as we come to Mount Taylor, what we call Tzotzil, I want you to appreciate that this mountain is a living being. It is a representation of our deities. My heart hurts. Because when you have children, when they first are born, when they first cry out, they become your heart. And they are my heart.
Out of 11 kids my mom could have had, there's 4 of us left.
Now I only have pictures. I only have memories. That's all that I have. And I take them out every now and then, and I can recall who their friends are and the good times that we have had. And so these photographs that I do have, those are the only things that I have of them. One day we were looking through a book, and it was a book about the bomb that was dropped on Japan. And as we were looking at it, we began to see some similarities. The faces, the swelling of the faces. And then also how they became malnourished, they became bony. We said, maybe this is because of uranium. Uranium could do this.
That's my grandfather. He's looking at a rock that he found, and he's probably thinking this rock is going to make us rich. It did, but it didn't last. The way he told the story was that during the time when they were looking for uranium, a couple of men were talking about this certain yellow rock that they're looking for. And he overheard them. And without talking to them, he went back, and where he seen that rock, he went up into that area and pulled a piece of rock out. So from there, I guess they started mining. The boom town started happening in Grants. There's probably was well over 300 mines that opened.
When they started opening the mines around here, and the elderlies were mostly not educated, so there was a few Navajos educated, but also they had the $ bug, and they lied to the elderlies.
My grandfather found the uranium, so eventually almost all my family went mining, and some of them they work in mill tailing. Then the next generation coming up, they start transporting uranium. Most of my family did uranium mining.
Has
I was a young man when I was introduced to this job. I worked really hard, and I did have many different positions, many different occupations. But at that time, there were no preparations, there were no safety glasses, there were no steel-toe shoes, and also there was no respirator of any sort. We were just exposed to it. When the blast would happen, nobody told us that there were hazards that were involved, but we would just dive into it. We didn't know that we're supposed to wash our hands. When it came time for our lunch break, we would be amongst the dirt piles. We would just sit down and consume our meal. He would bring home some rocks saying that this is another pretty rock, and so all those rocks that were different colors. They were yellow, blue, black, and red, and some of them were even marble. There were some veins in it, and they were really pretty, and so we put them on the window. Some of the others, they looked like candy, and they looked like treats, and they were really pretty, and so therefore we would display them on the window shelf.
When there was no more need for uranium, they just up and left the holes there. When it rained, it went straight into that water hole, and we used to swim in them.
Up into 1970s, where they were still mining, and on into 80s, and yet nobody didn't really know what they were handling. And no one talked about it, no one said anything. And by the time 1990 came around, the word kind of started going around that there is something dangerous about that uranium.
Going bananas here.
So, okay, that's what the one is from the student from the here, and then
We're over 3,000.
Yeah, we got 5,000 over here.
Yeah, 3,500. So I got 4,000 on that pile right there.
And what's normal?
Oh, about 60.
So the mine was in what direction from here?
Oh, the mines were all over.
Yeah.
So they brought material here.
They brought the
and milled it.
material here. It's going into the river, blowing into the river, down the little Colorado, into the Colorado, and down into Las Vegas. And the people are swimming in it and drinking it down there.
And the
So-
little Colorado is where all
Just right here,
this tree.
just right behind these tree line here.
People out here in western Navajo, we know are drinking from contaminated springs, and we're determined to find out the sources of why this contamination still continues on.
I'm with US EPA Emergency Response Section, Region 9, and we were asked to come out and meet with representatives of the Forgotten People to take a look at this mill site that is unsecured and has material that's elevated above background, and see if there's more we can do out here with regards to assessment.
A lot of the water here is not drinkable. So therefore we got to haul water from either Flagstaff, which is an hour and about 15 minutes out that way, or 45 minutes into Tuba City. And their water's also showing up with a little contamination. But, you know, some people will just drink it right out because, you know, a lot of people don't have the means of going either way to get a load of water.
I'm doing water deliveries for families that are really close to the contaminated sites. These roads are no good, and they're sandy and they're muddy during the winter, and you can't even get more than 2 55-gallon barrels if you're lucky to go up these hills. They told me I got a little bit of health issue with, I think they called it, something to do with my pancreas. I got 9 different type of pills, medication. The pain that I get, it kind of subside, but I wasn't supposed to overexert myself and do heavy lifting.
Oh, this is like the highest spot. One of the highest spots.
All these years, we kind of knew that some of the workers that had been in the mines getting sick with different things, but never knew that the water was being contaminated or anything until outside people started coming in and testing the waters and stuff.
4,000 count per minute.
Like Larry and other ranchers, they come here and they know the cattle stray into the wash here, so it's a resting spot here. This is where you take a break and sit on the dirt mounds here and break out your soda pop.
If they're inhaling it into their lungs, they're ingesting it with mutton or whatever, and it just sits there inside the tissues and just pounds away, month after month, year after year, and causes cancer and all of that.
They're high, but we have sites in Cane Valley that are hundreds of times higher. I'm not sure right now how much of this poses a health risk. We can work through some calculations and try to figure that out. It's helpful that nobody lives here, so there's not a constant exposure going on.
We're kind of a forgotten portion of the United States here, and we're Native Americans, but government just kind of stick us in a corner and kind of trying to forget about us.
They would migrate. She has been in this area for about 80 years. Her herself was born over there across. She says that once they move here, it's just a matter of making life, just getting settled. But at that time, there was no talk about the dangers of uranium. Years ago, they herd sheep as kids around here too. There used to be springs along that ridge over there. So they drank that commonly. Rolanda, her daughter, lately she's having problems with her back. That's the latest issue going on with Rolanda.
I have been off and on sick. They found out that I was sick with thyroidism, and now I'm taking thyroid replacement tablets all my life. There it is. And now I have a huge, the doctors say it's from my tonsils, and they said that this thing has to be removed surgically. Now I know, it could be coming from the water. There's uranium and arsenic. They say it's natural, and it's a natural spring which brings it up. When we make coffee, when we boil the coffee and you open the lid, the water's blue. It's dark blue. All this time I thought, it's just normal. About 2 years ago, I sat in on a meeting and there was pictures on the wall, and they said those pictures are the places that are contaminated, and Box Springs was there. They were saying that they shouldn't drink this water because it's got high levels of uranium in there. And we've been drinking that water for a long time.
Rolanda called me over and said, I drink that water. I've been drinking that water. And I said, how many people do you think are drinking that water? She started writing down the names. Since then, we've been mapping the area here in Black Falls, Box Springs, Grand Falls, and hearing how many people are dying of brain cancer, pancreatic cancer, all sorts of different diseases. In the last 2 months, I know of 6 people that have died here.
I have 3 children. They're all living. They have the fibrocystic fibroids. It's on their knees and the chest. If they try to remove it, part of that muscle, the muscle that it is attached to, will not function. so they can't remove it, and it's gross.
Well, people are still hauling water out of Box Springs, and because they don't have any choice. We brought resources committee from the Navajo Nation out here, and they said, well, we'll shut it off, because nobody should drink it, not the animals or the people. And we said, well, give the people water first. They have to have some water sources, because if you don't have any water sources, you can't live either.
I'm scared. I'm scared. Where is something going to show up the next time? My health is going down. I've had 6 surgeries, and I don't want to go through any more.
So you had a tumor growing out of the side of your face? Right?
It was on my neck, and it was going through my entwining to the back where my memory, and then up here, and then up here, and then toward my jaw. They cut up most of my nerves. I don't even want to eat with my kids because food starts falling out of my mouth. My daughter, she don't want to have babies. She don't want to have kids. She's been drinking Box Spring water. So she knows something, there's going to be something wrong. All the medicine that I take, it really turns me upside down. All these, I got to take all these every day. Since you came, nothing has been done. We don't want to waste this water to wash the dishes or wash our clothes or bathe ourselves. This is precious, so we're just drinking that. But when it's gone, then Box Spring water is what we have to resort to. I don't think I can fight anymore. It's not in me anymore.
You gonna leave?
No. This is my home.
Here in the southwest in Laguna, Powati, this is the biggest mine there was. And a lot of the people that worked here, they're having health problems. And the problems that are impacting them are no different than what has impacted our Navajo families in the Box Springs area. The tailings, they're still here. It is exposed, it's not contained, so there is still some contamination that does take place, whether it's the rain, the runoffs, and it gets down into the gully and gets into the aquifer. Everybody is affected in the same fashion because cancer is no respecter of person. We are all canaries of the uranium mine. Blasting took place not too far from where we resided. You could actually see the dust. We were covered with dust. There was a film of dust on our water, and then also on our plates and our utensils. And then when we had meat to dry during the summer, we would air them out and they would become dusty. And then during the winter months, we could see the actual coating of dust on the snow as well. And we would melt the snow and then we would consume that as a water. And so perhaps that is how it came into our body.
I don't know how many ceremonies was done. I don't know how many hospital visits, where they went. I have no clue at the time. And we didn't have a name for it. Nobody knew. And somewhere along that line, I think I stopped believing because I've lost part of my brothers and sisters at the hospital.
The first child, her name was Dorinta. The symptoms that she showed is that her stomach really got big. The cheeks, she would become swollen, and then her eyes got clouded. There was a film of cloudy over her eyes. I was informed that it was her liver that was ailing her. The name of Navajo neuropathy is the one that she was diagnosed with. She never walked. The next child is Jerome. Had the same symptoms. This time I was told perhaps I was the one that was causing these ailments. Maybe it's because you're having a relationship with another person, a relative. Maybe you're drinking. You are taking some sort of substance that is causing the children to have these symptoms. And it really pained me to be told that. Nobody has really come in and articulated and really explained to us thoroughly as to what trauma and what sickness that we have been exposed to. They take children into a dark room, but nobody comes back out and tells us exactly what type of medication is being performed.
I've got a lot of anger. I do believe that everything was done for the country, for the empire of the United States. And we were impacted by this.
I come from a humble background. My mother is not bilingual but monolingual, and therefore she lives in a totally different world than what we live in. I understood that I wanted to be of service. My particular drive is to speak on behalf of Mother Earth. My foster families were John Birch Society members. I asked my mother, why am I not living with my siblings and living with you as mom and dad? And it was put to me very simple. We want you to become educated, so when you come home, you will be our speaker, you will be our advocate. The reason that you went to school is so that you could become the interpreter, you could become that translator. You picked up the knowledge, you picked up the concept of advocating for your children. You're striving to make things good for your grandkids. Now you're able to put our thoughts and your thoughts on paper, and you're able to communicate that, and you're able to articulate. You're not only talking for yourself, but you're going to make an impact upon those that are yet to come. When I was running for vice president with Linda Lovejoy, I wanted to create a place at the table for the grassroots people.
government and more business. That is our direction. How about creating jobs with what we have within our Navajo Nation government? Energy is one great direction we will go. I know we have abundant energy on our land. Thank you very much. Akeho, Corda.
What I like to do is bring some money into the government, the revenue, and one of those, the way to do it is alternative energy that we get into that market. We have a vast amount of coal, a vast amount of oil, uranium, and other things that we have here. We need to start developing that and start making money and creating jobs.
Do they have the conscience to do what is right? I think that they are right at the threshold by accepting the money from URI, Uranium Resources Incorporated. For that reason, I believe that they're going to be led and they're not going to lead. And this is where the opportunity comes for common folks. We have not done the maximum of doing full cleanup. And that is something that is really, really needed. We need to make sure that our water source, they're not being contaminated. We need to make sure that the land that we live upon is not contaminated. And if there are cleanup that need to be happening, we should define what clean is and not a federal agency. Navajo can determine its own destiny. We have engineers, we have scientists, we have lawyers, we have doctors. We can do a greater good for ourselves. These are the same mountains that look down on my great-great-great-grandmother. Our feeling for this land is still the same. This is our motherland. This is where we belong. You're going to let your children know, you're going to let your grandchildren know that this mountain is a living being. It is a representation of our deities. So you need to carry that story. When I am no longer here, and when I'm in the winter of my years and I'm not able to share this, now you can tell your grandkids and your great-grandkids, this is what my father said to me on this ground.
La